once, but it didn't work out. I was 27 years old. I was quite a go-getter in those days, very headstrong. I'd been away to teacher's college and was very definite about my career. Well, I was sick when I was younger and I couldn't have children. Didn't bother me though, I was so busy with my teaching and church work and all. Well, anyway, this doctor came to town. He was from California. My, he was so handsome. He had a gap-toothed grin that would stop your heart. Well, we just fell in love, you know. I'd never thought about marrying anybody before, never found anybody I'd consider spending my life with. But him, well, he was pretty special. Right off, I told him about not being able to have children. I wanted that out in the open. I told him that I was happy with my work, and it didn't make a bit of difference to me. Maybe later on, you know, if I changed my mind, we could adopt some kids. But all in all, it suited me just fine. He looked me straight in the eye and said it suited him just fine, too. But he'd never been so sure about kids himself, and even so, it was me he wanted, but that was enough. We had a few happy months after that. He could be so much fun. And then one day, he told me he had made a mistake. That he really did want kids real bad. I could tell by the way it kind of tore him up that he was real soft. Shortly after that, a woman he knew from California moved to town and they got married. I taught both of their kids in school before I retired. Like I said, I never married. Living alone had always suited me just fine. Isn't that beautiful? Where we never morrow, we shall meet in that sweet by and by. Happy praise to the King, to eternity sing. 'Tis a land where we never shall die. My husband and I married back in Virginia, and he wanted to move out west just as soon as he could. So we got a job, laying track for the first railroad into New Mexico. Well, when that job was done, he got put to work inspecting 20 miles of track. He could walk it. He would walk it in a day easy if there wasn't no repair work. Well, I stayed at home and cared for stock and kids, and I wanted to make it something real nice. So I started on a quilt that took me 2 years to finish. I was always hiding before he came in, running when he hit the door, and stashing it in the craziest places. Like one time in the stove. When it was done, I gave it to Elizabeth, my oldest, to give it to me. Well, he took it, and he studied it. Well, I was beginning to think something was wrong with it. He rushed over to me, wrapped that quilt around me, swung me off my feet, and sashayed me all around the kitchen floor. Both of us laughing to beat the band. Oh, he was some kind of man, all right. That next spring, I was wrapping up my work for the day and was piecing up some scraps to cover the baby that was due in the summer. I had just lit the lamp when all of a sudden we heard a lot of horses coming up the road and riding hard. Well, my heart stopped, and I dug way down deep to catch my breath, and I ran out onto the porch. There were 5 men from the railroad, and they were all sweating and talking over each other's words, and there was a big bushel basket on the ground in front of them. Well, Jim Rice thought maybe he had fell and hit his head on the track. And Slim Henson thought, well, maybe the heat had gotten to him. None of them could figure out why he didn't hear the train. We never did get a clear picture as to what happened. But they had to bring him home to us in that bushel basket.
They say I didn't cry or say a word. I just kind of sat in a ball porch and rocked.